Okay, so next, in same patient, a right heart catheterization was performed because the creatinine was going up. They weren't sure what was going on. So take a look at this. Okay, so you're going to be asked about this wedge tracing. Okay, so I guess this will switch. So how would you interpret that wedge tracing? Put in your answers. Okay, great. So the majority of you got it right, which is excellent. So here's the wedge tracing, and I'm going to skip forward here. The patient's still markedly fluid overloaded, and it's really important, I think most of you know this, but to really drive home the point that you really need to measure the end expiratory wedge pressure. It was 27 in this case. And this is when her creatinine had gone up from 1.8 to 2.4. So you can still that she's quite fluid overloaded still. The computer read it out as being a wedge pressure of 10, so it's really important to not use that computerized mean and use the end expiratory wedge. One of the other answers was significant mitral regurgitation. There are V waves here, but that's more likely due to just an overloaded left atrium and non-compliant left atrium. Okay, so the patient is diuresed an additional 5 liters and then discharged. 3 months later, she has worsening breathlessness, no overt fluid overload, and she's New York Heart Association Class 3. So she underwent cardiopulmonary exercise testing. Her peak RER was 1.1. The peak VO2 was 15.8. The heart rate increased from 64 to 138, and the blood pressure increased from 112/62 to 138/64. And here you see the ventilation based on watts throughout exercise. And then on the right of the screen, you see the VE by VCO2. Okay, so you're going to be asked to interpret what these numbers mean. Okay, so take a look at that. So how would you interpret this patient's cardiopulmonary exercise test? And we'll go to the content. So the patient has a poor prognosis. She did not achieve an adequate effort. There's evidence of pulmonary vascular disease, or there's evidence of chronotropic incompetence. Okay, good. So most of you said poor prognosis. And, this was meant to be a bit of a trick question because you might be falsely reassured by the normal VE-VCO2, which was 28, abnormals usually above 34. You might have been reassured by the VO2 that was 15.8, which is still not severely limited. So you might think that the patient was okay. But there was something here indicating a poor prognosis, and that was exercise oscillatory breathing. So if you look in the top, which is a HFREF patient who had normal breathing, you see it's very different than the exercise oscillatory breathing on the bottom. And the person on the bottom has a much worse prognosis. Exercise oscillatory breathing, I think, is a sign that there is significant dysregulated heart failure and that there's difficulty in ventilation. Now, you can see that both of these people had the similar VE-VCO2 slope, and so really this exercise oscillatory breathing told us something more about the patient. And that's exactly what this study by Gwazi and colleagues showed.